So what's going on, guys? My name is MrDalekJD, and today we're talking about zombies, Mob of the Dead, Call of Duty Black Ops 4. Two topics that have been floating around inside the heads of zombie enthusiasts like myself and you guys for a long time now. And as time goes by, we're more inclined to believe that we may see Mob of the Dead return somehow within Treyarch's next COD game, which we believe to be Black Ops 4. We're so close to 2018, and the prospect that Treyarch Zombies is right around the corner is certainly getting me, as well as you guys, very excited. Let me know in the comment section how excited you are for BO4, and leave a like rating if you want to see Mob of the Dead remastered, which should pretty much be every single one of you watching. Now with the intro out of the way, let's dive right into the meat and potatoes of today's video. What could Mob of the Dead be like if Treyarch remastered it, and why do we think it's a likely thing for Treyarch to do with their next game? Well, to start with, let's jump straight back to May 2017. JC Backfire releases a video including Jason Blundell detailing the very first pieces of information about Zombies Chronicles, a DLC pack containing 8 classic fan favourite zombies maps from the Call of Duty Zombie saga, remastered into the current generation along with the addition of Gubblegum. It was almost too good to be true, but it actually was. We were given Nacht, Verrückt, Shilanuma, Kino, Ascension, Shang Moon and Origins, all playable within Black Ops 3, looking better than we had ever seen them before. Whilst we are all incredibly grateful to have been given these maps, especially when you consider that at the moment in time Treyarch were working on COD 2018, there was one map in particular missing that left a tiny void. The fan favourite map Mob of the Dead was not included in this pack. I wouldn't describe the response to the lack of this map being an outrage, but it did make for some hilarious public displays of passion for the map, and a lot of videos being created describing their thoughts and opinions on it and why it wasn't included. Jason simplified the reason being that Zombie Chronicles had a clear purpose and intention to tell the story of the original Ultimus crew, and get more new players up to speed who may not have played the maps originally. It also added even more suitable brackets around Black Ops 3 Zombies as a whole, allowing to tell the story essentially from where it first began, albeit with a few minor adjustments and changes. The twist on these remastered maps was that they were set in an alternate timeline to where the originals were, allowing subtle changes and new Easter eggs to be added, including Monty's dialogue on the alternate timeline we are playing within each map. Now before we got Zombie Chronicles, we had no idea how important Mob of the Dead would be to the storyline. Playing it back during the Black Ops 2 era, we knew we were playing something special, but the implications and messages that map has would not be understood until now. The idea of the cycle, the sour and thin blood vials, Stanley Ferguson, it's all incredibly important, far too important for a simple remaster according to Treyarch. Let's take a look at the reasons why we are led to believe that we may see Mob of the Dead return in the next game via some specific wording from Jason Blundell.
Mob, I can't say too much, but what I would say is I'm sure there's another purpose for that at some point. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So I didn't feel it thematically fit in the pack, and yeah, who knows? Who knows?
Now with a response like that, he is so clearly hinting at something far bigger for the map than simply bringing it back within a DLC pack with other remastered maps. The answer is what exactly? We've been given another look at Mob of the Dead since its Black Ops 2 introduction via the Call of Duty Zombies comics and the Chronorium, and of course its tiny section within Black Ops 3's Revelations. But that doesn't really count, it's all about the comics and the Chronorium. Now the existence of those allows us to really understand the idea of seeing a constant narrative play out through various timelines. We experience one instance of a timeline throughout Black Ops 3 and the Primus crew, where it currently ends with them returning to the end of the Great War in 1299. It appears that our characters are in a cycle, but that's only as it appears to us right now with all the lore we've been given. Just like with the Origins ending, we have a much better understanding of it now thanks to all the story of Black Ops 3, and I feel the same will happen within the next COD game. We do learn, however, through the Primus crew's adventure, that there are many alternate timelines where events play out slightly differently. Whilst we don't see this in the game, we do have evidence of this from leftover radios around the Giant from our characters, as well as other trailers showing various outcomes of our characters' adventures. The same thing could take place during a remaster of Mob of the Dead. Whilst we only know of one timeline of the map, the limitations on what version of Mob we could be presented are almost infinite, and we do bear in mind the timeline that we're given is simply one page from the Chronorium, and there are a lot more pages where that came from. So with that in mind, what changes could we see if they were to remaster Mob of the Dead? Well, to answer that question, we have to look at Mob in the comics and the Chronorium, as that is our first outlet for additional information on Mob since its release in Black Ops 2. In the timeline and comic, we see in 1940, Richtofen enlists help from members of the Illuminati to help build a laboratory facility beneath Alcatraz. The following year, he returns to the lab under Alcatraz, where we meet Victus, arriving from the empty Earth with the Chronorium. Upon reading the Chronorium, Richtofen discovers numerous timelines documenting their fates and learns about the blood vials. We then see Richtofen step through a rift into Alcatraz in 1934 to secure the blood samples of Sal and Finn, which were a necessary requirement for their insurance policy. He delivers the blood to his younger self back at the excavation site and recovers the blood vials belonging to Victus, where he returns back to Alcatraz. The Victus crew are then placed on ice to be kept safe until they are needed next. This is where the Primus crew arrive during Zetsubo no Shima to collect the Victus blood samples from Richtofen. Richtofen refers to the Victus crew simply as just old friends. Try not to worry about them. Just like you, they are safe. The fact that a secret laboratory exists under Mob of the Dead is humongous to the lore and story of the map, and a remastered version would surely contain a new area to facilitate this laboratory. A great visual representation of how this could look can be found in the fan-made custom remaster of Mob of the Dead by Shifty Gamer 101. Now, putting all the criticism and drama surrounding that aside, this is a very clean and impressive looking remaster, complete with a brand new section to house the Victus crew. It is without doubt that the Victus crew will be awoken during the next Treyarch game for some sort of purpose we do not understand yet. And for that to happen, we will have to see Mob of the Dead again. Now, whilst the idea of playing as the Victus crew is certainly a stretch, and even more so playing as them on Mob of the Dead, I do believe with the evidence in the story, there are bigger things to happen with the Primus crew, which will require the assistance of the Victus crew until the final world arrives, as Richtofen deems it. A slight foreshadowing of things to come, perhaps. The comics depict Richtofen using a lift to enter the lab in Mob of the Dead, so if Mob was to be remastered, we would see a section of the map change to facilitate this lift, or we might see it as a visual representation in the background or in a window or something like that. Now, a huge gameplay aspect of Mob of the Dead is the afterlife, something which our mobster crew experience infinitely during their cycle on the Alcatraz island. This is something which we probably wouldn't see if they were to remaster it, as this wouldn't make sense in the story. Whoever we would play as on the map, be it the Primus crew or the Victus crew or someone else, hasn't been sentenced to a life of purgatory. That doesn't seem to be the way the story is going. Treyarch want us to believe that the Primus story is nothing but a cycle, seeming like the idea of purgatory, but there is still so much more to develop on from that I don't think it's the real answer. However, a version of Richtofen could potentially work with the afterlife, as via this new version of the Mob loading screen, we see Richtofen's own handwriting scribbled on the page saying he can't get the afterlife symbol out of his head. We also see a drawing of Richtofen enter through a rift into the room of the Victus crew, which could also be foreshadowing the events that follow in Black Ops 4, possibly at the part where they are woken up for a purpose we currently do not understand. Now, it's unclear at the moment exactly where the time period of Black Ops 4 is going to take place, but a lot of people believe it to be set in the modern day due to a job listing on Activision's site for someone to work at Treyarch who has a great understanding of modern military technology. So if we bear that in mind and we look at Black Ops 3, the maps weren't taking place in the future, but all the weaponry inside the mystery box was futuristic weapons. So the weaponry we do see in Mob of the Dead could be somewhat similar to what we experienced in Black Ops 2, but I do feel we'll get a slight variation with some modern weapons, but of course the classics like the Blundergat and the Tomahawks are things we probably would see again, or perhaps could be slightly altered due to the alternate timeline that we could be experiencing the map in. Now, also bearing in mind with Mob of the Dead is the overall story of it, and it's about our 4 prisoners building a plane to escape the island, only to be sentenced to death via electric chair on the Golden Gate Bridge to live out the same life and cycle again and again and again. If we do play Mob of the Dead again, there is a good chance that we will build the plane, but there is also another chance where the overall objective isn't necessarily to leave the prison, but there might be a totally different objective at hand for us, which involves us building, collecting parts, or completing a quest, for example, that would have a completely different outcome to leaving the actual island itself. But looking at how Treyarch has treated previous remasters of maps, they tried to keep things very, very similar and not really touch the formula too much. So honestly, it is pretty tricky. They could go down the route of remastering it where it is kept exactly as it was, where we play as the exact same crew, or they could totally alterify it in order for it to match with the story, which I think would be equally as exciting as long as it played pretty much like the same map. Now, with all of the hints we've been given towards the story of Mob of the Dead, as well as Jason Blundell's cryptic wording, it makes it seem like a remaster could potentially be on the cards sometime in the future. But how exactly would they do this? We're looking at the pattern of how we've seen remastered maps done so far within the Black Ops series. Black Ops 1 Zombies released with a deluxe version which contained the World at War maps remastered. In Black Ops 2, a bonus map was included, Nuketown Zombies, and within Black Ops 3, a bonus map was the Giant. So a lot of people are assuming that we might get a brand new experience with a brand new crew on disc, as well as a bonus map being Mob of the Dead remastered. It would surely satisfy and make a lot of people, including myself, very, very happy. But another way to look at this is they don't need to do a remaster of the map, because the story that's being depicted here isn't something which can necessarily be put into gameplay, and rather than that, they've decided to explain it in depth via the comics and the chronorium. And perhaps as we go through the story of Black Ops 4, if we do return to Mob of the Dead, it would be something we would only see as part of a cutscene, for instance. There's a very fine line which Treyarch need to be careful on if they are to remaster Mob of the Dead, because they don't want to alter too many things to make it seem like a completely different map, removing stuff like the afterlife and the plane and the whole overall themes of the map could make people upset because it doesn't follow the tradition of the original. But it would be very exciting for the story to be brought forward and to tell new things through an alternate version in the timeline of Mob of the Dead. But I think Treyarch have heard loud and clear from everyone's feedback, even before Chronicles released and to now, that Mob of the Dead is a much beloved map, that they know we wanted a remaster of it, and of course there was a reason it wasn't included in Chronicles, and that there is a bigger purpose for it, which we don't quite know of yet, but we are hoping that it is a remaster. Let me know down below in the comment section, if they were to remaster it, what changes would you like to see? Maybe changes involving the story, which would change certain things on the map, or would you want them to keep it absolutely the same, with the same characters as well, and there be nothing different? Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. If you're watching this on the day of release, then I hope you guys have a very, very safe and happy New Year's Eve, and if you're watching in 2018, then we're not far away at all from Treyarch returning and us learning more about the next Call of Duty game and what's going on with our favourite crew of characters. If you guys have any other topics you want me to discuss involving the Call of Duty Zombie storyline, or other things which you may want to discuss or want to see inside of the next game, let me know in the comment section. And if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more, then make sure you hit that subscribe button and also turn on notifications so you never miss another video.
Please subscribe to MrDalekJD's channel. He's a good man, he's an honest man, and he will bring you the latest zombie news on his channel. So please subscribe. Click the subscribe button.
It's going to be somewhere down there.
Somewhere down there.